And hello and welcome once again to Sable's WorldForge. Good to see everyone today. Good to see the showcases already blasting out of the gate, as it were. Thank you guys for your enthusiasm. I'm going to turn down my spooky music here a little bit. And hello, James, first in the chat, as always, followed by Satrium. Hello. And Inkflame is here, so we will be doing Inkflame Showcase right out of the starting gate to make sure it gets done. Yeah, let's see. Charmy City is here. Hello. Kayatan is here. Hello, hello. The Kingdom of Misa and the Varangians came raiding. Welcome to both of you. Hello, Misadis. Hello, DM Stretch. Hello, Moonflower, Amelie. Let's see who else all said hi. Rowan, Daz. I already said hi to Kayatan. Yeah, good to see you guys. Welcome. And Kefkayako. Is it Kefkayako or Kefkajako? By the way, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. I see that you followed while I was away. We also have a follow from Tink GN, so thank you very much for that. And Bookworm Lex. Welcome, guys. If you have any, comments or questions about the channel, let me know. Kefkayako's been here before. I thought he was already following, but I think he. Correct me on my pronouns if I'm wrong. All right. Tenacity Grove is here. Hello. Macaro is here. Purple is here. Check out Purple Heart Writer's book. Please feel free to post the link, hun. I will make sure that people see it. Natalia's book releases tomorrow. It's called The Book of Secrets. Definitely check it out, guys. She is a lot of fun as a writer, and, there you go. Perfect. So we'll put that up briefly when we get started here, which I'm going to get into right away so that we can get the showcases done. And hello, Shadow. Good to see you. I need to set up follower alerts for my stream as well. It's something that OBS Live automatically does for me, and the Streamlabs setup with the browser source that I'm using for things like the name tag down there and stuff, that does it automatically for me. So I'm, when someone does that when I'm streaming, then I hear a dingy thing and I know they've done it, and so I can say something, and then I also see the back chat a bit because events are kept track of in the streaming program. So yeah, awesome. Let's see here. Okay. Yay, hi again is right. Good to see you. Yeah. Rowan says, Stretch had to run to the shop. He was out of chips. That is a problem. And I'm glad he went to the shop. I'm sure he'll be back later. It's all good. Tenacity says, yesterday's stream was brilliant, by the way. I'm so glad that you guys enjoyed it. I really had a blast too. Today, what I'll be working on is lore and plot stuff for that world and setting. So that's why the creepy music, right? So yeah, it'll be, I'm excited about it. I've already got a lot of ideas. I picked out some pictures for my dark cities, which I'm going to create. It's going to be fun. But first, Dinosaur Bob has asked me to do some work on the plot article, so I'll be doing that first and setting that up. And he's also asked me to create an article about the cataclysmic event that fucked everything up. I may wait until Stretch gets back to get some, ideas bouncing off him with that, because he's kind of the one who came up with that, and he's clearly got a vision, so I want to get it right. Tenacity says, I've been in proper world building mode the last couple of days. It's helping my plot way more than I expected. That's everything. The second is indeed better pronunciation, and he indeed no problem. Okay, perfect. So Kakajako, or Kefkajako. Okay. Kefkajako, I will remember. All right, perfect. Oh, and, other people chiming in with the stream was good. Satrium says, I sadly was so tired, though, I just fell asleep at some point. Well, the VOD is still there, and actually, I'm up to date on archiving it all to YouTube. It hasn't been released yet. It probably won't appear on my YouTube channel for another month. That's how far behind I am publishing things to YouTube to view. Even though I try to publish at least one video a day, and the reason why is because I got really behind in Game of Tomes. So I'm still catching up. I'm just trying not to oversaturate the channel so that, you know, viewers can't watch what they want to watch, right? So one a day. I left early like Esong for being a player, says Siobhan. That brings up another thing. Okay, so we were doing some talking in our channel, right? And we were trying to decide who was going to GM this and who was going to play. And I'm kind of the mind that, you know, it'd be fun to play, but it's not as fun to play as some other things because I obviously know the outcome, right? So that's no fun, right? So we were talking about, is there any way we all could take a part in GMing it? So what we're talking about doing, right? And I don't know, like, but we're pretty sure this is feasible, right? Because Kahuna and I were talking about it. And the idea is that we would have, okay, so DM Stretch wants to take the lead, but he's not really familiar with Pathfinder as he, you know, as much as other settings. So Aaron would back him up with managing rules and adjudicating things, right? We're thinking that Dinosaur Bob, who is the master of the battle maps, would run the combat layouts and the battle maps, right? And then Kahuna and I would voice the NPCs, right? And I thought that would be a lot of fun, right? I would really love to do that. The only problem with the idea is how do we get all of us on the screen and not confuse people as to who are the players and who are the GMs, right? And plus that gives, you know, if we can make it work though, it gives more people an opportunity to play, which is fun, right? So our thought was that we could set up different scenes so that you would only see whoever was, you know, actively involved at a time, right? And I thought, you know, but, you know, we figured out, Kahuna and I have two different ideas for ways to do it. I like his better than mine, but there's a backup plan, you know, and it makes it possible because he's found a thing where we all have individual browser sources for our images and our voices. So I thought, okay, so that's what we're talking about currently, right? So duly noted, Esong and Siobhan have jumped in for player slots. If anybody else is interested in playing, let me know, right? Tenacity says, I'm going to have so much editing to do because I'm 20,000 words in and hardly out of starting town. Been there, yeah. And honestly, Flame, I don't blame you. I've written like 20 pages of world building by hand. Do I have a link to my YouTube? You know what? I should. James has a link to my YouTube. James keeps it handy, but I'll find it here just a second. Right? Like, I think it's youtube.com/user/Sable Aradia. I think that's my short thing. Okay, you're going to hear my starting video here momentarily because they never let me shut it off. But here's the direct link anyway. If you... Oh, there we go. He got it. James posted it. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much. Yay. All right. Brilliant. Avatars, says Daz. Avatars? I'm not sure I understand the context there, Daz. All right. Great. Oh yeah, and with Sable and Kahuna voicing NPCs, Stretch is the narrator, Aaron is the voice of Da Rules, yeah, and, you know, Bob the master of the battle maps, because he does that better than anybody else, so... Use token art, exactly. We've decided we're not going to use HeroForge images for the lore on the site, because generally HeroForge's style is a little too cheery for our settings, so we're going to try to use things like Artbreeder and whatnot. And but you know, for PC figs and tokens, HeroForge would be just fine. Emily says that would be fun. Oh, stream avatars like Tillers. I'm reluctant to do stream avatars for the reason that I've had enough problems getting stability with my stream as it is. I'm kind of like, I don't know if I need to add anything else, but if you guys want me to, I will look into it and give it a shot. I'm not going to add stream raiders because I will find that too distracting. I try not to play it either because I find it too distracting, right? I'm usually listening to other people's streams and working with their work, so I don't want to do that. Oh, I mean, change the pick as your NPC faces change. That might be possible, Daz, but it sounds like it'd be a lot of in-broadcast engineering. I thought maybe I was already considering things like, put my hair up for one NPC and take it down for another and put some round glasses on for a third and, stuff like that, right? So, yep. Yeah. James says I can't play it as this PC can't cope with it. Yeah, it's fair. Satrim says I think using the right tools like the one I recommended to Kahuna should enable you to have 10 face cams on stream easily. OBS Ninja, you mean? That's awesome. I was trying to get that going before we started yesterday, but it was brand new and I had like 20 minutes to be on screen, so it was not enough time to figure it out. But I'm going to make Kahuna sit me down and go through it, or we're going to broadcast on Kahuna's channel, one of the two, right? So Emily says, I've stopped playing Stream Raiders 2 because I was not doing any work while I had it on. Exactly. Oh no, the streamer's avatar like Tillers and Davina and Jam. Okay, yeah, you're talking about the face rig setup. Maybe. Face rig is also hard on the system and isn't entirely like, it's got a lot of bugs, right? So maybe that might be a possibility too. We can look into it. I don't get much work done when watching streamers, but I get lots of ideas, says Tenacity. Satrim says it has a bit of a learning curve, but it's also incredibly powerful. Yep. Yeah, and like Kaora, exactly. Okay, so I'm going to put the sprint timer on now, and we're going to start. That's my YouTube link here. First of all, we're going to show you Natalia's book. Pre-order link right here, gang. Never live in fear. That is the promise Myrtle made when she was 10 years old, and she meant to keep it. In a world where the creatures from dreams and nightmare live beyond the thicket of thorns, it is not strange to be afraid of something. When Myrtle gets the chance to look for a magical book beyond the thicket, she jumps at the opportunity. The world unravels before her, a realm with danger looking for a moment of weakness. Will she stay strong and keep her friends safe? Awesome. We've played the trailers before, and I love it. So, yeah, definitely check it out, guys. All right, let's do Ink Flame's showcase here. I've been waiting to look at this. Dragon Rider clothing from the Casimira world. I love your Hero Forge image with the salute. That is really cool. It instantly gives me a military feel. I like the padded jackets. I like how you turned this... See, I know what this thing is. It's like a bard coat, and it's supposed to be fancy and kind of overdone. And you managed to make it look militaristic, and that's really cool. Ah, Barbarossa did the work for you. Nice. I should have guessed. That is definitely a Barbarossa style. Okay. James sings the Stream Raiders theme. Yeah, James does good work. James is the one who gave me ideas with this for my figurines that I do too. So, Dragon Rider clothing. The Southern lands have, over time, become a melting pot of cultures, so no two Dragon Riders look alike in their clothing choices. However, certain rules must be followed to keep a rider safe during flight, and at least stand a chance of keeping them alive if they had to fight on the ground in an emergency. Warmth. While Dragon Riders in training are used to the higher altitudes of the floating islands, they still need warmth more than most anything else when flying with the dragon. Yep. Something that Anne McCaffrey also took into account, which is really kind of makes sense to me, right? Between the warmth of their clothing and the body heat of the dragon, they are able to survive up to the maximum altitude a dragon can safely fly themselves. But most dragon rider pairs never test this limit for fear of what might happen. Well, then there's the running out of oxygen in the thin air, too, right? Okay, protection. There are several types of protection that a rider needs, the primary one being for their legs. A dragon's scales are sharp and can cut through normal cloth easily. Often this leg protection involves extra layers and can be buckled on so the rider doesn't have to carry it around all the time. Yeah, makes sense. Secondary types of protection are from the weather and wind and from weapons. Most riders will try not to go flying in bad weather, but their gear is built to keep out the elements for at least a couple of hours. You need the word "of" there, in case it becomes necessary. Goggles protect their eyes from the wind so they can see during a flight, like right about a couple of hours. Yeah. As metal is not used on rider clothing except very rarely, their armor mainly consists of tough leathers and fabrics. Why is the metal not used? I'm sure I know why, but you have to tell us, right? They provide little protection in a prolonged flight, but their intention is to create a basic level of protection against a sword or arrow in the event that the dragon must land and the rider finds themselves in a battle on the ground. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Head. Okay, equipment, head. Oh, hello, Eli. Good to see you. You explain it later. Okay, all right. How are you, by the way? And Cayetan says, floating islands? I know who would like it. I meant Dimitri, but he isn't the only person in the world. Yeah, I know. Dimitri would love it, the idea. He loves that whole floating islands and, flying ships thing. He tends to like stuff occasionally on my Toy Soldiers world, partially for that reason, I think. But yeah. Head. Riders wear a cap to protect their heads from the cold air, often made with wool or quilted and stuffed with wool or down. Makes sense? Even fur is used when available. Wool is the most popular choice as it also serves to protect from rain and still keep the rider warm. You know what I think would be really comfy is a layer of wool and then a layer of down. Because you're right about that, about wool. In order to see, regardless of the wind and weather, riders also wear goggles made of clear scales from an air dragon. Yeah, that's clever. I need sunglasses and lenses in my world too. We could have put the lenses on him. There's a variation that can, if you want them to look like steampunk goggles, it could be done, right? Yeah, that's a clever. But you see, that's the thing. What's the material? Glass is like fragile, right? um, or heavy, right? Especially if we're talking about, medieval level fantasy. So I've always kind of wondered, but scales from an air dragon, that's clever. These have been cut and polished, then set in leather straps and buckled securely around the back of the cap. Cool. There's also a cap that's not quite as, it doesn't look as fur lined, but it's got goggles across the top too. It's obviously intended as like a World War I piloting helmet. So, not critiquing Barbarossa's design. Barbarossa's awesome. His figurines always look amazing, right? It's just an idea, right? Okay, let's see. Purple Heart says to Cayetan, raise his hand. I like floating islands, right? Tenacity says, there's a city in my world that's been submerged underwater, and the city exists in the air bubbles left under the caps of giant mushrooms. Anyone have any ideas of food sources while submerged? I have them growing crops using artificial light and spear fishing, but I don't know what else they could eat. Crops and fish would be enough, but I just feel like I'm overlooking something. Okay, actually, I can probably tell you. And the problem is, in such an environment, growing grain of any kind would be very difficult, right? And that's what you're thinking. I mean, you don't have to have grain in your diet, but because we have a lot of it, or starchy vegetables like potatoes, we find it difficult to imagine a world without it, right? You might want to look up what grains can grow in sandy soils. And it depends how big your mushrooms are, because grains also require vast fields in order to grow properly, right? Like, I mean, you don't need it. There have been plenty of cultures that have survived with almost no grains. The Mongols being one, the Inuit being another, right? Like, so yeah, it's not necessary, but they'll end up eating more meat as a result to make up the protein and caloric difference, which is fine, right? Mushrooms might potentially, depending on the variety, be used to make up that, right? So that's a possibility, right? Otherwise, I can't see why your idea wouldn't work. Inkflame says there's something really interesting about how floating islands work. I don't know what you were saying, good thought too, but that's cool. Kafka Jaco says, you got me intrigued how they work now. Yeah, me too. Tenacity says, there's one floating island in my world and it's magnetic, so the ground and the floating island are polarized against each other. That's interesting. But after a certain point, gravity takes over and it can't be pushed any higher. That's kind of neat. Inkflame says, in my case, magic comes from crystals, so they're basically giant crystals at the bottom of each island. Sensible. Kafka Jaco says, oh, then we have comparable magic systems to Inkflame, which is neat. Yeah, algae, of course. I'm sure that algae's been taken into account by Tenacity, because it's just obvious, right? Siobhan points out kelp rice maybe creates some underwater fruits and veggies. Yep. Yeah, sea cucumbers, fish, crustaceans, insects too, points out Amelie. Yep. Makara says, I had special light rock that would float and be mined for airships, but overmining can cause your island to sink. That's hilarious. Yes, I remember that. I remember that from, what, summer camp, I think. Okay, back to the article. Lurk for bath. Gotcha, James. Body. The number of layers a rider wears will often correspond to how warm they usually are and how well they can handle the cold. Yes, but remember that the big thing you're going to want to worry about up there is wind chill, right? So, and regardless of how well a person can handle the cold, it's difficult to handle aggressive wind chill, right? Besides the point, in high atmosphere, it can be really difficult for the air to hold heat. So I'm sure you've taken it into account, right? I'm not criticizing your method, right? I'm just saying that, you know, the implications of this sentence are that, you know, basically people who get cold up there are wussies if they have like multiple layers. And maybe that's something that's thought of that way. Maybe that's part of their, you know, the Dragon Rider culture. But it's a thing. I just thought I'd throw that out there. You know, you're implying that, and you know, if that's your intention, cool. And if it isn't, then you might want to rethink it a bit. That's all. Yeah. World Ember. I wasn't around for summer camp yet. Okay, World Ember. Gotcha there, Macaro. But I do remember it, and it was cool. All right. All of them start with a linen shirt. Yeah, that makes sense because linen tends to wick away moisture, right? Followed by a gambazon made of leather or quilted with woolen down, and that's awesome because that's exactly what your image looks like, is a good gambazon, right? If necessary, a wool coat is added over this to protect the rider from bad weather, and that makes sense too. Legs. Generally, a rider will wear linen pants underneath a layer of either wool or more of the same quilted material as their gambazon. Yeah. Strapped onto each leg is a long piece of leather or layers of thick slash-resistant canvas, made of a similar material as their dragon's light saddle. Yeah, okay. These pieces are designed to run the full length of a rider's leg along the inside, where their legs would be pressing against their dragon's scales during a flight. Okay, that makes sense to me, but then my question is, why doesn't this image have... Oh, wait, because you need the rest of the gambazon, that's why. There's an image with chaps, right? And they're leather chaps. They're not the big fancy, you know, fuzzy, or, you know, because fuzzy chaps do exist for cold weather, right? Or feathered chaps. They're good solid leather chaps, and I use them in my gunslinger outfits. But if you put, yeah, the problem with Hero Forge is if you put that on, then you wouldn't get the bottom of the gambazon here, right? And yeah, so I can see why you didn't do that. But yes, that makes sense. You might want to use Hero Forge to create a couple of sub images where you're just focusing on the other part, like maybe one that has the chaps and you just take a picture of the lower leg bit and say leather chaps for riding, right? Or you might want, if you're using them, right, maybe you mean like a strip of leather that's attached to the outside like a quilted piece. That might make sense too, right? And you could also do the goggles that way if you wanted. Just throwing it out there. Don't feel obligated. It's just suggestions. Okay. Feet. Wool socks and thick leather boots are usually enough to protect a rider's feet from the cold. Yeah, it's your best bet. Couple layers of of wool socks or a big thick thing of socks. Rowan can tell you all about it. She grew up in northern BC. Yeah. Okay, occasionally there are some who will add in fur in favor of lighter socks, but the easiest to obtain is always plain leather boots. Yeah, that makes sense, and probably they're treated with something that's waterproofing. Hello, Esong. Good to see you. How are you today? We're looking at Ink Flame's article, Dragon Rider Clothing. I don't think I posted the link. Just a second, let me fix that. Yeah, cotton or linen, then wool socks, says Siobhan, who also grew up in northern BC. So that's helpful. I'm doing all right. I'm surprised I can respond to the chat so quickly. She says, what are we working on today? I have my phone sitting over here running the chat, and I also have changed my streaming program, so this is very helpful to getting things done. And welcome back, Stretch. And we are currently looking at Ink Flame's challenge article, and I am working on lore stuff for the world that we created in the World Builders Roundtable yesterday. But don't worry, it's not like you're going to be like revealing the plot or anything. So, like not the outcome, because I know you want to play, right? So yes, if you want to play, we'd be happy to have you, Song. Just letting you know. So there you go. I answered your question as you were answering it. So see, I'm even better at the chat. I can respond to the chat before it comes into effect. That's the sprint, by the way, for those of you who are sprinting. Yeah, everybody's rather enthusiastic about, yes, let's get Esong to play. If Esong wants to play, let's get Esong to play. We're even talking about, careful, she's a witch, too true. Yeah, we're even talking about ways in which all 5 of us can contribute to the GMing of the event, which is something we're thinking of doing. Like, I don't know, Bob hasn't said boo one way or the other yet, but the current thought, right, is yeah, Stretch, check the back chat in the channel actually to see if you think that would work. But basically, Kahuna and I had a thought that since we now have access to a software that lets you do separate browser sources for each person and their camera, right? And you don't need a VTT to do that necessarily, that we could set up separate scenes that have different people in them, whoever is actively involved in the scene at the time, and no more. Right, and then this would minimize the effect of the confusion of visual that you were talking about with having like 5 GMs on the screen and then a whole bunch of players. Like, who should you be listening to, right? But we can work with that, right? It could be rather complex. It could be, but both Kahuna and I are confident that once it's set up, we can manage it, right? So, but I think it would be fun. Well, anyway, we'll talk about it later. What's agreed is that you're the one who volunteered to take the lead on it, so we are going to let you do that, right? We're not going to stop you from that. So if that's what you're worried about, then I won't watch the rest of the VOD. Yeah, don't watch the rest of the VOD if you want to play. You're right, because we do have spoilers. Yeah, I'd want to do a tech test on that. Yeah, me too. Maybe more than one. Yeah, but it could be done and it would be a fun challenge. NPC voices could just be background too. Yeah, it's another option we were thinking of there, Siobhan. Right? The other option is we could have like the active DM being DM Stretch, in the chat window visually, and the rest of us could just be disembodied voices off camera, which also works. You know, so not as cool, but it does work. So that could be a lot of fun, right? So you know, I'll go with what everybody else wants to do, but and I'll have fun no matter what we decide. So I'm not married to it, but if I were expressing my opinion about it, I would love to do that. I think it would be a fun challenge. I think that we would maximize our strengths that way, right? And I think that it could be a really cool game, right? So, you know, but right? Like if you really don't want to do that, Stretch, because you're the guy who's taking the lead on it, that's okay. It's not a problem. I'll just play instead. That'll be okay. All right. Yep, exactly. Siobhan is also welcome as far as I'm concerned. I'll confirm that with everybody else, but I can't see anybody saying no. Yeah. She's a witch. Had to be Fuck Automod, man. Oh, Moon's back from walking the puppers. All right, I'm going to catch up on some chat here since this is the chat window. Makara says, after Cow, I eventually started watching Bob's streams and ended up getting active. Yeah, which is awesome. And Tenacity says, thanks everyone for the advice. Hope that was helpful. It's great. Makara says, speaking of, I need to get back to Synergazia. Yeah. Yeah, I think, thank you, Siobhan, for clarifying what I meant by that. She says, the higher they fly, the faster the winds as well. Yes, that's what I was thinking of. That was what was in my head, but I guess I didn't like point out that that's why the higher you go, the, you know, and the thinner air, right? So between the two, it's a big issue, right? Tenacity says, just so everyone knows, there's magic, and they use magic to grow the crops, but the options are limited still. Well, sure, you got to provide magical sunlight somehow, right? Tenacity pointed out to Inkflame in the Old Kingdom series by Garth Nix, there are paper wings, i.e. massive magic paper airplane bird things. The uniform you have to use to fly them is very well thought out. Worth looking into. That's cool. That's the get back to work growl from the Dragon of Productivity. Inkflame says that's a good idea. Hadn't thought about images focusing on things I couldn't get a good shot of normally. I did that a couple times because I wanted to point out the spurs, right? So on my gunslinger uniforms. Okay. Rowan says, leather is treated with a mix of oil and wax to waterproof it, but also animal fat works as well. It just ends up not, unless you really clarify it before you use it, it can rot. So. All right. Stretch says, come up with more monster ideas. One is the Mistress of Torment, a sadistic, hedonistic tribal witch who revels in making musical instruments out of captured people. See, you should never let us loose on craptastic horror settings. This is not a good idea. Our minds are bad for that. Tenacity says, Sable, is there any chance you'd mind me posting a link to my YouTube channel? Should be getting my new computer next month and we'll be making videos again. Awesome. I'd love to see the link to your YouTube channel. And yeah, go for it. Thank you for asking. I think I've got a thing that says shout out, which is what I would use to promote, right? But whatever. It's small cost. I don't care. Yeah, and Stretch obviously answered, obviously. So good. I'm going to go check it out. Ooh, channel trailer.
My name's Billy and this is The Right Idea.
I hope I'm not going to get copyright dinged here. I like your display. Nice.
On this channel, my main goal is to become a much more productive writer, because as it stands now, I'm not a productive writer. I don't have a body of work. I have a body of unfinished and barely started projects. I've spread myself too thin, trying to make too many different projects at the same time. And my goal with this channel is basically to hold myself accountable, become more productive, and hopefully help some other people in the process. I'm going to be making a pretty wide variety of videos. I'm going to do writing vlogs where I hope to document the entire planning, writing and editing process of making my first ever novel. I'm going to be making writing prompt challenge videos where you guys can write in and it's sort of a competition, and much more. Basically, I'm going to be doing a massive variety of videos. I'm really excited to get started. I've been wanting to make this channel for a very long time. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, why don't you subscribe? I'm hoping to get to 100 subscribers by the end of the year. Really appreciate your support. I've also got a TikTok and a writing Instagram where I'm going to be doing a lot more engagement and basically talking to you guys who hopefully enjoy the content. But yeah, welcome to The Right Idea. It's my first ever video, there are going to be many more, so subscribe, hit that bell, like the video, share it with your friends who also like writing, and I'll see you soon.
That looks great. I'm definitely in. I'm all for writing channels. Awesome. Yeah, no worries, Tenacity. I think this is really cool. I also love your name here. Oh my god, that's hilarious. Okay, we've already watched this. We're not going to watch it a second time, but I wanted to see your info here. Did I see Righty McRightface? Yes, Righty McRightface on Insta. You totally have my sense of humor. That's amazing. This is great. You're gonna do nano stuff too? That would be really cool. Awesome. I look forward to what you put out. That's going to be great. Very cool. All right, so we're caught up. So we're going back to the article. We're at about saddles here. A note about saddles. Regular saddles are often made of leather and designed so the leg protection worn by the rider isn't as necessary. However, scouting missions or short flights can necessitate the use of the light saddle, which is made of canvas or other slash-resistant materials and can be wrapped around the dragon quickly to create a saddle safe enough for flight. That's a cool idea. I'm open to that. Siobhan says maybe do a cross promotion with Sable. I do writing content on my channel too, although these days mostly it's a VOD channel for my Twitch because I prefer the direct live interaction format of Twitch. I find that YouTube, you have to do so much editing that it just doesn't, I don't have the immediate feedback, but I'm totally willing to do cross promo stuff if you want. I love collabs, right? So hit me up. Yeah, I've got about I think 2,100 or something followers, but I mean, some of them are there for the pagan content and some of them are there for the writing content. So don't think that's like, a huge thing, right? So I have a series I want to do called Conversation With. That's a bit of a podcast style. Would love to collab. Count me in. I always love to do podcasts. Doesn't matter how big or small, I'm happy to do them. If somebody's interested in talking to me for an hour or so. That's great. Okay. Back to Inkflame's awesome article here. I'm actually really interested. It's just there's a lot going on. So, okay. Yeah, I love the idea of the quick wraparound saddle idea for like, fuck, we got to get in the air. Makes sense. That's great. Okay, because this saddle is much lighter and meant to be carried folded up in a pack for emergencies, it doesn't create the same leg protection as a regular saddle and will cause serious harm to the rider if they fly without anything else on their legs. Yep, so backup protection. Cool. That's really well thought out. Stretch is like, and if anyone is interested in talking to me for an hour, God, I feel sorry for them. That's hilarious. Welcome back, James. Now, you know what? It's one of those things, right? I'm an introvert and I tend to be shy. I realize I don't look that way on stream, but that's because I know you guys, right? So, but if you're a writer and you want people to look at what you write, you have to promote, right? And you have to figure out how to do that. And I tend to do well in this kind of, talking to people on kind of a one-on-one feel. So it's an area that I've worked on being good at because, you got to promote. And this is one of the ways in which that, I find it easier to promote. So, yeah. So, no worries. I love talking to people, too. It's fun. Yes. That is the way to do it. I agree. Yeah. Yeah, we love you, DN Stretch, says Amelie. Yep. Tenacity says that series is all about the creative process, so DMing fits under that. Maybe we could collab. Yeah, hit him up. He's fun. Hey, I've got him. He's gonna be on at least one panel at Writer's Conduit. So, yep. I want to talk to DM Stretch. I would buy you a beverage of your choice, says Eli. That's how you do it. Sit there with your drink. And then we're at the pub, right? Yeah. Yeah, promoting stuff always feels a bit weird. It totally does. It totally does. It feels weird. Who's, okay. I don't know what people are talking to now. Rowan is correct on that. She says, these days I'm usually up to Discord or Google Meet or Zoom voice call, and honestly, I'm happy to chat about all sorts of things. I don't do a lot of writing, but I do GM, and I know about a lot of stuff of interest to writers. Yes, she does. Right? What? Conduit should have worked. My thingies aren't working. Why are they not working? There we go. Guess it had to be not capitalized. Okay. Yeah. Case sensitive. I'm sure that's exactly the problem with why it didn't work. Okay. Yeah, DM Stretch was having trouble with Streamlabs. I also had trouble with Streamlabs. I also would not recommend. I'm using OBS Live. So, okay. Materials. The materials used in writer's clothing varies, but generally they use some combination of the following. Wool. Wool is primarily used for its water resistance once felted, and also as padding for both leg protection and armor around the body. Its warmth also makes it an all-around good use for most riders. Leather. For those that prefer heavier body armor, leather is a good choice. It is also commonly used as part of the leg protection riders wear because it is thick enough to withstand the sharpness of scales. Down. Down is by far the most popular choice for warmth among riders. It is light, so it can be combined with other materials easily and creates a good barrier against the cold. Fur. While not common, as most fur is used for the rest of the inhabitants of the floating islands, some riders will use fur to supplement wool and down for warmth. Linen. Linen is the primary choice for clothing worn under the armor and other padding. It breathes easily, is generally comfortable to wear, and a slightly heavier linen can add a layer of protection for the body. Okay, see you in a bit there, Stretch. Wool also retains its heat even when wet. Yes, a good point there, Siobhan. And yeah, you might want to add that, Inkflame. There's a reason why wool tends to be a very commonly used material in military uniforms and has been for a long time. Not until we developed some better cotton, better, and even so, they're not better. Like, I still don't like fleece. If I weren't allergic to wool, right, I would. It's a much better material. Okay. Scales. Writers are still studying all the best uses of scales. However, and comma, you need a comma after the however. And you might want to start that as a different sentence, actually. Period, capital H, however, comma. And air dragon scales have been discovered as the best form of eye protection for riders during flight. It's a bit awkward. How would I rephrase that? However, they have found that an air dragon's scales are the best currently known form of eye protection for riders during flight. When they are shed, the scales turn translucent and can be cut and polished. I love this idea. I think this is absolutely fucking brilliant. I may steal it. That's awesome. Once set in leather, they can be strapped on and I would say two, right? They can be strapped on to keep the wind out of a rider's eyes, comma, while also allowing them to see where they're going. There we go. Yeah. Metal. Riders use metal very sparingly when creating clothing to be worn during a flight. The cold of high altitudes, that's what it is. Yep, bing, good, you're on it. The cold of high altitudes can cause the metal to burn a rider if touched. Yes, at that level, metal absorbs cold very well, it loses its heat very quickly, and at that altitude and temperature, it can actually cause like frostbite. They're still used for buckles on the saddle and anything where another type of material wouldn't be strong enough to hold the strap in place. So here's a suggestion, right? Do they wrap those buckles in anything for an extra, and back the buttons with anything to prevent them from touching the skin? Right? Like I could see them wrapping a layer of like little tiny, take like a strip of linen or something like that and wrapping it around the buckle, right? So that you don't actually have to touch metal. And I could see them using a little tiny bit of leather on the back of the button, because of course the buttons you're talking about are like right, like I know what you're getting at, right? Like they've got, okay, so like my Canon figurine here, they've got, they've got like the two sides, right? And they're close together and there's a strip in between them. And the one that's going out front is bigger than the one that's in the back, but it's still a round thing there in order to hold it in place in the fabric, right? And that could be backed with a little bit of leather just as an extra layer. Again, it's a suggestion. I'm not married to it. There's nothing wrong with what you've got. I just thought maybe, you're very focused on that, and I thought maybe that might be a neat little detail. That's the sprint. Yep, buttons made of hardened leather are a thing, but buttons made of hardened leather can also come apart in the rain, and they're going to have a lot of direct contact with the elements. So, I mean, it would work. Wooden buttons are also a thing, but they might break depending on the type of wood, right? Yeah, or antler. Antler is another good choice. Yep. So there you go, some other options. Okay, yes. They're still used for buckles on the saddle and anything where another type of material wouldn't be strong enough to hold the strap in place. And I can't see any way around that. And obviously neither could ink flame, right? When we're talking about like saddle buckles and, shit like that, it needs to be really solid, right? So nothing else is as solid as metal. Yeah, you're gonna have to, right? Yep, neither could Anne McCaffrey. Exactly. Right? And she thought about it too, right? And ways in which metal didn't have to touch skin in any way as well. Right? So, yeah. History and injury prevention. The very first Dragon Rider didn't wear all the bulky layers that most riders wear today, but he also didn't fly as high or as often. He never sustained serious injury either, as he used thick blankets and modified a horse saddle to make things work. As more rider pairs were found and an organization was established, some began pushing the boundaries of flight and learned what was and was not needed as a result. Yeah, magical wood could be an option. That's a good point too. Maybe there's wood that's more solid than metal. Maybe dragon bone is more solid than metal. That's another option. We've done that in some games, right? Like, we used to do weird shit, right? Okay, so in the world of darkness, there's some things that do aggravated damage. Aggravated damage is like extra damage. And if it did aggravated damage, we reasoned that it was tougher than the things that didn't do aggravated damage. Metal does not do aggravated damage, as a rule. So we used to make things out of vampire fangs and werewolf bones. Inkflame says, I can add more details about it, but they make sure that nothing can touch skin during the flight because there's a lot of layers. Yep, you have successfully communicated that. I'm just, okay, based on what I know about uh, uh, our contest judge, Ginny, right? She seems to be one of those fabricophiles and clothophiles. You run into these people in the SCA, and they're all about the little details. So this might be a little detail you could slip in there that would give you an edge in the competition. That's all I'm suggesting. You have successfully communicated the idea that it's not going to touch the skin. You've been very firm about that, right? And I really do get that impression, right? And for, pretty much any reader in the world, that is sufficient, right? This might be something that could be of use to you in the challenge, that's all. This kind of detail, Rowan is one of those costumophiles. She would notice that. If someone took time to describe the structure of the grommets and why they were designed the way they were, she would remember that, and that would give whoever, if she were judging a contest, it would give her an edge. So that's the only reason why I suggested it at all, right? I get the impression that Ginny is one of these types of people. So, all right. Yeah. Ironwood is entirely an in-world invention of Aaron's, actually, there, Siobhan. Okay. Yeah, see? Rowan confirming. So there you go. So that was my thought on that, right? Metal. At one point in time, riders believed that it was necessary to use metal armor on dragon and human alike. Oh, that could get cold fast. Demon attacks were common, and if they could fly, it wouldn't take much to drive a rider pair to the ground and force them to fight from there. But soon they discovered that metal became extremely cold in the high altitudes. Yep, I'm sure it did not take long, and it would take some time for it to warm up after landing. Any bare skin that came in contact with the metal would burn, so they elected to reduce metal usage down to what was absolutely necessary. That's to get back to work crowd. As soon as we're done this Ink Flame showcase, we're going to take a break, by the way. Yes, Rowan is terrible to watch movies with as she criticizes clothing. Yes. And I am horrible because I criticize military technology and tactics. Yeah. I'll I'll shut up if you ask me to, but I do. Okay. Yeah. There's a whole thing about a battle that took place in the Third Crusade. I think it was, yeah. Okay. All the knights showed up to fight in their big metal armor and helmets, and just about died of heat exhaustion trying to fight off the Muslim troops in the area, right? Because they never let them up, right? They have light cavalry, and light cavalry, the best use of them is as a harrying force. You ride in, yes, shoot a few people or stab a few people, and then you ride out. And you keep coming back and doing that, right? So if you're doing it right with effective tactics, you'll have like a unit ride in and ride out, and they'll take a break, and then another unit will ride in and ride out, and then go on like that, right? And so they're trying to march this army of mostly infantry with a few heavy cavalry, because the ones that brought their horses, right, over desert, right? And so they didn't get a chance to take a break and take all the shit off. And yeah, it was horrific because metal does not deal with temperature well. So I really love that you thought of that, Inkflame. That was what that was all about. Yeah, Inkflame says, yeah, my mom and I do it too, especially Regency. Yeah, totally. Tenacity says, I studied film, so I'm a bit too critical. Yep. Purple Heart says in The Magician or from Raymond E. Feist, they use a type of hares. I don't know what you mean by hares, but hares? Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, I love that you thought about it. Okay, any bear skin that came in contact with the metal would burn, so they elected to reduce metal usage down to what was absolutely necessary. Okay, that's the last line I read. Warm layers. Before settling on one of the floating islands, riders didn't need any thicker layers than what one would normally wear during a cold winter. Yup. As higher altitude flight became more and more common, layers of warmer clothing was introduced to save the riders from cases of hypothermia that had started to become expected throughout the training process. Rather than started to become expected, I would say was introduced to save the riders from cases of hypothermia that had become routine. Right? It's a smoother phrase, that's all. All right, see you later, Tenacity. Aw, little baby. Nope, totally different thing, Siobhan. Siobhan says Ironwood, Austria Virginania. I'm not sure if it is what Aaron based his on. No, it's totally different thing. Damn, grammar got a bit weird in places, says Ink Flame. Mine does too in my first draft. I'm always fixing shit like this in my second and third drafts, so, don't take it personally, honestly. I totally do it. You might also want to add and frostbite as well to hypothermia, right? For frostbite from the, burning and from the wind chill. Leg injuries. All it took was the development of the light saddle and several young riders with little common sense to create the leg protection that riders wear today. Without it, a dragon's scales can cut deeply into the rider's legs, creating permanent scarring, pain, and sometimes even the inability to walk. This is perhaps the biggest cause of a rider's career being cut very short. I'd say delete very. You don't really need it in that sentence. Mark Twain, I think it was, wrote that every time you want to put the word very, you should put the word damn instead. Then your editor will delete it and it will be exactly as it should be. Right? I mean, I don't think, I'm not that extreme, but I think that very actually diminishes the strength of the sentence there and changes it from a well done active voice to a passive voice. It's a technical writer bullshit thing, but you're a writer, so throwing it out there. Right. I think it's very interesting that you never quite used the word frostbite in this article that I can see. I'm almost at the end and I didn't see it. Was it because you couldn't remember when you were writing it what it was called? You're like, I know what that is, because I do that, right? Like, I'll be going along and it's a common word and it's something I've known forever. Just when I'm in the process of writing it, it doesn't occur to me. I honestly didn't think about it. Okay, yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, wind chill can cause really bad frostbite in mountain climbers. That's the only reason why I know about it. I've read some extreme survival stuff from people who were like, trapped on Everest for, 3 days in a snowstorm in a high altitude position and, the frostbite damage that was done. So, yeah. Yeah, that happens so much. Okay, so yeah, I totally know the feeling. It happens to me all the time, and then you're reading it back and you're going, oh, for fuck's sakes, why didn't I think of that at the time? It's so common, but, your brain just, yeah, totally understand. Okay. Altitude. A very small amount of limit testing was done after warmer clothing was developed to see how high a rider pair could fly together. While the floating islands hover around 3 miles off the ground, the average pair can fly only around 3/4 of a mile beyond that before neither can breathe or move safely. Excellent. I love to see science in magical worlds. Good for you for knowing the limit and doing the research. Extra world building points for you. Excellent. Air dragon pairs have also tested this by bringing wind and air with them and can fly approximately 5 to 6 miles before the air they could bring begins to run out and the cold sets in. That's fucking genius. Yeah. Kefkajako says, my native language is Dutch, and sometimes I forget the Dutch word, but remember the English one. Yeah, Satrium knows that feeling too. Amelie kept asking questions about the science. Well, she's a scientist. So I'm glad to have her among the community for that reason. Right? My rule of world building, and it's one thing that I'm gonna, like, I'm trying to, like, I'm not gonna say I'm putting it together because I'm percolating it, but I'm percolating a class on world building to give on my friend Cat Rambo's site, right? And my main rule of world building is this: physics work until they don't, right? And that is that wherever you change the laws of physics, only change that. And then make it work consistently every time. Otherwise, every law of physics that we know should continue to work. This gives your magic and your science, like even if it's, space opera, science fiction or whatever, a sense of grounded realism that your reader will really appreciate. So yeah. Excited for that class, says Emily. I'm working on it. Spring maybe at this point. So much to do before World Ember and Game of Tomes again. And then I'll be exhausted, so. Saturn says, I don't speak 2 languages. I speak about 0.8 of English and 0.85 German, so I speak 1.65 languages. That's hilarious. That is hilarious. Yeah. I've even done that with a smattering of French that I know. If I've spent a while, speaking in brief conversational French in a classroom and then gone, what the hell was the English word for that again? Out my head. Esong says, am I doing summer camp? Yes, I absolutely am doing summer camp. I'm going to count my summer camp words towards the tourney of tales. I will not be writing fiction during that time. It's one of the reasons why I'm trying to get a bunch of shit done. All right, see you in a minute, Stretch. Eat your food. That's a good plan. I'm going to read the sidebar here. Cultural differences. Again, I love this picture. Okay. Differences in the way clothing is made or how it looks when it is complete mainly comes from where a particular rider's family came from before coming to the Southern Islands. Way to culture. Good stuff. It should be noted as well that because families have intermingled over time and who actually crosses the border varies a great deal. This is an awkward sentence too. Let me see if I can help. Should be noted as well. Oh, all you need is a comma. It should be noted as well that because families have intermingled over time, comma, and who, and I think is that whom there, technically? Right, One Kingdom isn't done yet, so there's a title but no text in there on the sidebar, says Ink Flame. No problem. Okay. Double check whether that's who or whom. I think it might be whom, right? Comma, over time, comma, and whom actually crosses the border varies a great deal. Certain fashions have greater representation, and there is a large spectrum of what each rider may choose to wear. Okay? Peregrine. Peregrine culture revolves around honing battle skills and making sure their people are ready for anything. They compete every few years to determine which clan will lead the kingdom, and the remainder of the clans often fight over borders. They often wear leathers and furs as armor. This is not a common pure heritage in the southern lands. Period is what should be there. A new sentence. Or you can use in the southern lands, comma, as there is only a small portion of the border that meets Peregrine, and often, and comma, often, comma, technically, by the way, those who find themselves there have traveled through one or more kingdoms and picked up some of their customs before arriving in the south. That is an amazingly long sentence. Author Goddess's recent edits on my book have helped me be better with commas, but people don't necessarily write that way in these. Esong might know better than I. Esong says, I think it would be who. Who is used when the question can be answered with him or her, and that sentence seems to be answered by she or he. Fair enough. Okay. All right, I'll take her word for it, because I wasn't sure. Let's see. You know what? Already broke that sentence in two after hearing you read it. Okay. I don't know if you even need all this information. Right? Because the relevant portion is that only a small portion of the border meets peregrine. You might want to just ditch the rest of it. I'm not saying that you should. If you feel it's important, keep it. But as you know, that might be a suggestion there. This is not a common pure heritage in the southern lands, as there is only a small portion of the border that meets peregrine. Period. Might be sufficient. I see Dazzlecat said something, but not what. Oh, there. Okay. Cool. All right. However, peregrine heritage can mainly be distinguished among riders by their choice of a leather gambesson. You've spelled gambesson differently here. You put an I there and there's an E up in that one. Stretch probably knows which one is correct. Probably leave it till I have the Kingdom articles done. Okay. And occasionally fur when they can get it. Novami. Novami is heavily influenced by the culture of the northern lands, but the people who live there are primarily from the lower classes that weren't able to hide their aptitude for magic. In many cases, this resulted in a split of cultures. Those who feel they have lost their one true home and try to be faithful to its way of life, and those who saw an opportunity to start fresh and have filled their lives with new ideas and ways of living. The rare few among the riders who have descended from families that traveled far south from Novami, do yourself a favor, cut this down. The rare few riders who have descended from Novami, right, either wear drab wool colors or prefer bright within reason colors and intricate designs. And you might want to add, there's nothing in between, basically. It's one or the other extreme, right? Tenacity's like, I can't wait to have a decent article typed up so I can showcase it. Yeah, I thought it was an E. Thank you for clarifying. Okay? Northern lands. I'm ignoring Ismina since you said it wasn't done. No one has ever made it all the way south from the northern lands except by way of Novami. If they did, any relations in the riders would likely be influenced in the same way as if they had Novami heritage, though with as simple of a style as possible. That makes sense. I already liked the article, so that's awesome. Thank you very much for sharing this, Inkflame. It's beautiful. That's the sprint, so I'm going to go on a break momentarily here. If I have any suggestions, okay, aside from what I've already said about, you could throw in a couple details there, right? With things like backing on the buttons or whatever, right? If you wanted. You don't have to, obviously, right? And it could use more pictures, right? That's so, but yeah, that's one other idea. You could do some close-up stuff of individual gear and then kind of intersperse it or put it in the sidebar, right? So those are things you could do. And if you're not at your word count limit yet, you might want to consider quotes because they break up this is nice, right? This breaks up the text and gives you something to draw your eye, right? And, I tell people this because it shouldn't matter, because world building should be the focus, and it is, right? But there's a lot of competition, and with equally good world building, sometimes your design matters, right? It doesn't have to be fancy CSS, though. You really can do it with the basic tools of a Freeman. You just have to really have a sense of design. So those are my suggestions. Otherwise, this is amazing, and I think it's a contender, and that's why I'm telling you these little details, because I think that the world building here is so good, you've got a good shot, right? So I wish you luck, and, you know, let me know how it goes. And thanks for being patient with me, waiting for me to get around to this, because I'm sorry it just took so long. Yeah, that's another thing. This is an option, right? Detailed diagrams of like a gauntlet, etc. would be cool if it's within your capabilities, says Tenacity. Yep. I use maps for this kind of stuff sometimes. You make an illustration or, you know, a figurine, and then you take it into like paint or even print it on a piece of paper and draw and then take a picture of that piece of paper, right? And then you write in things like, you know, this is the, or use map pins, right? And labels. This is the, you know, knuckle protection, and this is the inside of the, you know, the inside is lined with sheepskin and whatever, right? It's great. So yeah, you could do that. That could give you an edge. Daz says, as a layout suggestioning Flame from scales on down, put it all in the full width footer section. It will fill your article all the way across under the sidebar. Yes, that's another option too, so you don't end up with this big empty sidebar space. This is where it lines up, so if you took all this and put it in the section marked footer or full width footer, it'll go right across to the edge here. She's right. Yeah, she'll do that once she sees how long the culture section ends up being. That makes sense. Welcome back, Stretch. Kev Kajako says, really nice one, and love the new image here. Had not seen it when I last read it. It looks great. Yeah. And it is a good article. Yeah, or by hand or scan it, or copyright free images off Google, Pixabay, etc. Right? Yep. You know, I'm not that bad at drawing things, but I'm not a genius at it either. And more importantly, I often don't have time, right? So I tend to use a lot of internet sources. Okay, gang, that's the end of that showcase. When I get back, I'm going to do some work in the world here. And in the meantime, I'm going to put up a break timer, and I will see you in a few. Alright, sorry guys, I'm back. Yes, Rowan, the game is on tonight. I'll see you guys in a few hours for Toy Soldiers Old School if you are following that campaign. So that's going to be fun. We're going to rework the system again probably next week, by the way, Rowan. We're going to try that OBS Ninja that we were shown so that we can have separate camera images, right? And see how that goes. And then we don't have to like stay on the one screen, which will be useful. And I hate all of you heartily for mentioning food and reminding me that it's a thing because I'm hungry. I'm just going to say that. I don't know if I missed anything else important in the chat. Just skimming back to make sure. Yeah, screw all you and your food. Okay, so I was looking ahead at some of the showcases here. Right? Yeah, food. But, okay. So this is Satrium's showcase, and I remember him showcasing this character article on another later night stream. I forget which one I was watching. It might have been the Claws of Forge, don't quote me. And it was awesome. Right? How do you feel about the idea of me saving this to Wednesday so that I can actually go through it? Because it's really cool. I think it deserves full attention if I can. Right? I mean, he's even got theme music, right? Which he wrote. So I would really, it might have been AP stream. That makes sense. That makes sense. It probably was AP stream. Yeah, okay, that sounds right. Because this is really cool. Right? What do you think about that? Would that be something you'd be willing to do? Let me go through it on Wednesday. It's probably about an hour's worth of work. So I'd ask you to spend the channel points to cover that hour, but I would really love to do it. It's really cool. It's a changeling character who changes their identity. Oh, could have been Siobhan's stream too. Yeah. Yeah, it's because there's so many different aspects and theme music for like for a bunch of the individual characters too. I should be around on Wednesday if you do it first, otherwise it will get too late for me. Yeah, that's what I figured. Start right off with your showcase because I think it's really neat and I would love to give it attention. I was this a challenge article? Because this would have been a really good entry for a challenge. This is really neat. I've never seen anything quite like this. So, oh, yep, Malachi could. Shadow Malachi could. I could showcase it in my stream as well. Well, not like Sable, but I can always ask you a bunch of questions. Shadow has good world building questions. That's what I have noticed. No, it's not. I almost think you should have saved it. It would have been too long for any... Well, that's probably true with 2,500 word limit. Because it's like, what? How many words? You know what? Why don't I find out? I could do that. Word counter. Let's see how many words your article actually is. Shoot. Also, I love the way you've laid it out and broken it down. Like the formatting on this is really excellent. Okay, so that would probably be what they would count for a challenge. What do we got? Yeah, it's 4,000 words, so it's easily an hour's work. Right, I love it though. Yeah. One to 3 a.m. EST is like 6 a.m., 7 a.m. UK time. Yeah. Yeah, I love it. So if you're cool with that, let me save it. Because it's cool. We'll do this one next, and then this is Kefka Jaco's article, and I've got to say visually it's spectacular at first glance. Bunch of different variations of this casting armor. This is also a fairly long article. We'll have to see if we can get through it all today. Okay. In the meantime, I'm going to do a little bit of work. This is our world here. As you can see, I've created some city articles. This is the plot article. Yeah, middle of the night for Satrium, exactly. Bob has asked me to do some work on the plot article to like lay out the description since I'm the main lore person, I guess. So I will be doing that. Yeah. Sorry, I was approaching the word limit. Don't apologize. I always push the word limit on challenge articles. Often they require that kind of depth, in my opinion. The multiple pictures makes it spectacular to look at, though, and I'm sure it won't be a strain to read. So I'm going to work on this for probably a couple of sprints. Right, and I was waiting. Okay, you're going to lurk for a bit. Yeah, are you lurking until we get to the next showcase? Or either way, it's cool there, Siobhan, no worries. Stretch, you had a thought, I think. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Your idea was the what I believe it was your idea for the whatever cataclysm created the conditions of the world above. Do you have any thoughts as to what that might have been? Right? If not, I can make something up. I just wanted to know so I didn't contradict what you had to say. James goes to bed. Okay, good night, James. No, wait. Wait. We're going to do your article, though. Do you want me to do that quickly before you go to bed? Your articles are never that long. Because you put in one for a showcase. I'm still thinking about that, sort of a magical nuke or something, he says. Okay, fine. We'll do yours right away. And then I will take my split. Alright. So this is James's article, Matchmaker Profession. I'll put the link in the chat. Like the image, that's really great. WorldForge can be very useful for that. Ooh, neat. Okay. Matchmaker. I'm so tired of people thinking I set people up. I am not. I am a matchmaker, not a wingman. An exasperated employee. Cool, because of the choice of title. Yeah. A matchmaker is someone who makes matches. That's not what I thought it was. That's cool. The matchmakers work with the Candle Factory of Segment 11 of Zone 3. That's really, okay, that's cool. I like that. Right? Yeah. This appears to be the only industry that combines two different products in the same building. The reasoning behind this is that they produce similar enough products to be in the same building. Let's see. This appears to be the only industry that combines two different products in the same building, mostly because they are similar enough that it is more efficient to do it that way. Perhaps something like that is what I would say. Yeah, all I hear is two products in the same building. I hope they're not matches and dynamite, says Z-Song. That's hilarious. Okay. In addition, the candles need to be tested with matches. Yeah, of course. All levels of this role revolve around a machine called a match spinner. At various points around the circumference of the machine, a particular part of the process occurs. Okay. Match spinner, we have a diagram. A smaller and historic top of a match spinner by James Woodwright. Awesome. You made that? That's cool. The diameter of the match spinner is 115 centimeters or 3 feet 9.28 inches, and the circumference 361.28 centimeters or 11 feet 10.24 inches. Along the circumference are independent slots that can move up and down with each process. There are 360 slots. You have a footnote. I'll look for it. Ah, no. You don't have a footnote. Or do you? My coding. Okay. The process is as follows. Stick loader. At the 3 o'clock position, a level 1 matchmaker loads into a sloping box. Smoother to do this. At the 3 o'clock position, a level 1 matchmaker loads freshly made sticks into a sloping box that have been impregnated with ammonium phosphate to stop afterglow. Footnotes are references. Okay. So that's down in the further resources section. Great. Cool. Okay. The box has a ramp at one end that shakes the sticks so that only one stick is inserted into the match spinner. Makes sense. The independent slot in the match spinner rises to accept the new stick. Cool. Dipper. At the 12 o'clock position, the match spinner then rotates the independent slot to move it back down. A clamping arm comes down on the stick to prevent it from falling out, while still leaving it enough freedom to rotate. Yep, okay. As the match spinner rotates, it lowers at the perimeter end. The stick lowers into a shallow V-shaped channel in which it rotates so that the tip is coated with a mixture of potassium chlorate, sulfur, glass powder, and gelatin. I did not know that that was all involved, but that makes sense. During the dipping process, the chemicals for the tips of the match are agitated, allowing the mixture to stay in liquid form for longer. Rotator. Once the tip has been coated sufficiently, the match spinner rises so that the slot is level. The slot with the newly made match rotates to let it dry. The chemical makeup of matches has changed since the old world. Because of this, the stick doesn't take an hour to dry, but rather minutes. Okay, hour to dry, but rather, minutes. Unloader and weight. At the 6 o'clock position, the match spinner releases its arms so the match can fall out. The match then rolls down a slope and lands on a platform, image left. Well, very clearly illustrated there, that's great. Once enough matches have accumulated there, the platform drops, making the matches fall further down onto a cardboard tray. A level 2 matchmaker swaps this for an empty one and puts a sleeve around the full tray. They will then load the full box into a crate, ready to be sold in the warehouse. New article. Okay. There, the matches are sold for 140 new sovereigns per box, and a crate, you need the word there, of matches is 28,000 new sovereigns. The level 2 matchmaker replaces the full tray with an empty one so that the process can continue. Matchbox. Cardboard is used for the matchboxes, as wood would increase the price and make the box more likely to burn. Yep. PLA plastic is not used as it melts between 130 Celsius to 180 Celsius, 266 Fahrenheit to 356 Fahrenheit. While matches burn, singular burn, not the S, right? At 600 to 800 Celsius, 1112 to 1472 Fahrenheit, which would make its use dangerous. Thus, cardboard is both safer and cheaper to use. Just delete this sentence. Thus, cardboard is both safer and cheaper to use. You don't need it. You explain that up here. What differs from matchboxes of Burdencaster to those from the old world is that the sleeves do not have a front design already included, so it has to be glued on top of it. The front design of the box itself is often kept by collectors. The collection of matches is called Philumini. Neat. The matchbox is put together with friction for the tray. The sleeve is put together using glue that originates from the Costa Blaze plant. Yeah, that makes sense. I remember your glue there. That's cool. The front design is often of an interesting picture with the brand name on top. The striking surface for the match is similarly glued to the side. Yep, that makes sense too. The front design can be of mountains, forests, wildlife, or well-known landmarks. They are similar to cigarette cards of the old world. The front design of the box changes every 1 to 3 months, depending on the delay in the transportation of the matchbox cardboard and the new front design panels. Box of note here, red phosphorus is safer than the historic equivalent, white phosphorus. White phosphorus used to give those who worked with it phossy jaw, making people's jaws spongy and leading to organ failure and death. Yes, a very important thing to note. One of the most dangerous professions of the Victorian times was being a match girl, which meant putting the phosphorus shit on the match. Good for bringing that out. Striking surface. For the striking surface, I would say red phosphorus is used rather than they use, right? Just because you've taken a more like encyclopedia tone throughout the rest of the writing, so that would be more consistent. Red phosphorus, powdered glass, and the glue that originates from either a coast ablaze plants or gum air. Oh no, I see why you use that now. Okay, never mind. Ignore what I said, because otherwise that sentence is awkward. That makes more sense. This combination of chemicals is painted on strips of cardboard to be added to the box making process. Match tip. The match tips are made from potassium chlorate, sulfur, glass powder, gelatin, and an extra chemical that lowers the curing time. Reduces the curing time is the word you want there. The tip chemicals are then deposited into the V-shaped channel in the dipping process. While being agitated so the those should be the same sentence. The tip chemicals are then deposited into the V-shaped channel in the dipping process, comma, same sentence, while being agitated so the tipping chemicals do not dry out. Otherwise, it's not a complete thought. While being agitated so the tipping chemicals do not dry out, we need what happens while. So since the first part is the what happens while, then it needs to be part of the same sentence, if you see what I say. If the tipping chemicals if the tipping chemicals do, not does, dry out, they can easily be scraped off with a wallpaper scraper and either discarded or burned in a controlled environment. Makes sense? Checking the chat to see what I missed. Footnotes or references. This is my own process. Says James, my reference is how it's made. Yeah, that's a good show. I like that show. They show the full process. They're dipped and not rotated. Gotcha. Yep. Mikara says, TIL, some scientists have executed a real-life trolley problem with mice and electroshocks, and I suspect I'd have ruined the experiment by trying to break open the cage or kill the wires, and after finding out it was fake, would have punched the scientists. Yes. Okay, good night, Satrium. We'll see you on Wednesday. Thank you for sharing your article. I look forward to going through it on stream. Yes, DM Stretch says white phosphorus is lethal and really nasty. Remind you that a nickname for a particular type of grenade, a white phosphorus grenade, is also known as a Willy Pete because of the WP, right? And yeah, it burns really hot, is the thing. That's the sprint. Career progression. Unlike with the Redsmith, the career progression for a matchmaker is based on experience, comma, not on tests. Level 1. A level 1 matchmaker makes the sticks, which are 9.5 centimeters, 3.74 inches long, and 2.5 millimeters, 0.1 inch thick. These are made from planks of pine. They also make the trays and sleeves to make the matchboxes. You might want to mention why they're made of pine, which is to say that it's a lightweight and relatively inexpensive wood. That's why it's used for matches, right? How it's made. Canadian cough, says James. Yep, it is. And it's a great show. It breaks down stuff like how different things are manufactured. Really useful, especially for writers, for that whole process. It's great. DM Stretch says white phosphorus also sticks when it burns. Yep, and has to be cut off or will burn right through skin, flesh, and bone. Yep, will so. That's why it burns really hot. Level 2. A level 2 matchmaker loads the sticks and boxes into the match spinner. They are also the person who changes the full tray for an empty one. Level 3. A level 3 matchmaker will make the chemicals for the striking surface and for the tips of the matches. Yeah, and it's the only tree that the forestry industry grows. That makes sense too. You probably said that. Yeah, okay. Awesome. Anything in the sidebar? Yeah, okay. Attributes. Type of job, artisan. Type of employment, extra employment, levels 1 to 2. Core job, level 3. Yep. And I remember you explaining the difference of that before in your world. I like their outfit, by the way. That's a really logical outfit for working with fiery stuff. Leveled? Yes. Payment changes with level. Contract type permanent, working hours part-time, location zone 3, segment 11. There's the article table of contents, further resources, stuff on the different chemicals used, stuff on red and white phosphorus, and Hero Forge. Then here are the footnotes. So you have references, that's great. And then acknowledgements. Awesome, James. I like it. That's great. Okay, thank you for sharing, and go ahead and go to bed now. Good night to you. I'm going to put up a brief break timer for just another minute here. It won't be the full 15 minutes, but I do kind of need to take a quick break, so I will do that, and then I will be right back. We're going to continue working on, I'm going to work on my stuff for the world for about half an hour, and then I will dig into the last showcase for today. So see you in a minute. Okay, sorry about that. I am back. Chat fell asleep. DM Stretch almost finished dinner. Okay, we need a name for the great disaster that happened. I kind of like Stretch's idea of a magical nuke. Siobhan suggested the Magipocalypse the other day. I've been chewing on it, and I think I kind of like it. What do you guys think? Do you think that works, or do you think I should call it something else? Do you think that's a little trite? Like, I don't know. I mean, what would you call the effects of a magical nuke that basically caused magic energy in the world to run so fucking hard wild, hog wild that it just like fucked up everything? Like spellburn? Ooh. Big bada boom. Big bada boom. Yeah, exactly. Spellburn's good. The final strike. Ooh. What is considered to be the source of magic? Is there a geographic location that was near the epicenter, says Esong. I'm not sure. Um, Basically, the entire surface of the world is uninhabitable due to magical mutations. That's the shtick, right? So little something about the world, but like, I don't think it's a spoiler for the adventures. Would the survivors know the epicenter, though? Asks Amelie. Probably not. I like Spellburn, also shortened to the burn in conversation. That's cool. Because the world sounds great, says Shadow. Yeah, I figured you'd like it. You kind of like the dark. They let us loose on dark worlds, man. They should not have done this. I can come up with incredible horrors, things that'll make your nightmares crawl, you know. Okay, Spellburn it is. That is the popular one. I like it. While there can be suspicions of where people associate an epicenter with, like in Greece, Zeus is a mountain and could be considered the source of a lot of conflict, says Esong. That's a good point. Right? I imagine that would vary with region because the survivors are very isolated from one another. We need to work together on writing a dark fantasy world. Maybe so. Maybe so. I like collabs. Pick my brain anyway. I can come up with like my imagination is far too aware of the horrors that humans can deliver upon one another. Oh, okay. Daz is off for dinner. See you later. It depends if you consider the size of the country versus the whole world. Yes, it does. Amelie, that is a good point. But the problem with that is that, like, they don't know about the whole thing. So we're going to call it Spellburn or the Burn. We're going to make a quick content creation so that I can insert the link. The Spellburn. Select template. Conflict. The explosion covered the whole world, right? Says Amelie. Nobody knows. But the map we saw was more of a country, wasn't it? Yes. 3 city-states. Yet Rowan says, so am I, which is part of why I live in the middle of nowhere off the grid. Yeah, where of the evil humans can do. Yeah, that's Rowan. Yeah, or at least the known world, says Stretch to Amelie. This is medieval era. Okay, because I have a sudden question. Go for it. What would you think? Should I use the generic template because it's more of an event, or should I use conflict? I'm not sure conflict really works, though, because we're talking about the disaster, not what led up to it necessarily. I am curious what the elves call it, says Shadow. Probably the Spellburn. Elves are a big part of the civilization, so Myth legend might work. Generic. Okay. Yeah, okay, so generic or myth legend, I don't know. Is there an event or natural disaster template? I thought there was one after summer camp. No, not really. There will be, right? I do believe that event articles are going to be part of the Chronos update, but I don't think it's there. Good night, Macaro. Thank you for joining us. Myth makes sense too, yeah? Okay. Emily says, are the people we developed descended from those who were responsible for the explosion, or were they at the other end of the world and thus somewhat protected by the explosion? Either could be true. We never defined that. I think myth legend is what I labeled the Great Storm as, says Rowan. That gives me a point of reference. Okay, we're going to call it a myth. Okay, that's good enough for now. Thank you for helping that out there, helping Siobhan out there with the links there for their credit for their articles, Emily. And thank you, Stretch, for the same. Eli's got to go get prescriptions from the pharmacy before it closes. Thanks for joining me, Eli. I imagine you won't get back before I'm done, so have a great rest of your day, and if you get a chance, I'll see you when you get back. I would call this important lore. And that's the sprint. I'd say we'll call this the blight, and it'll be a condition. Blight is a mutagenic spell things right. Mutagenic. Condition that results from lengthy, Jesus, exposure to the world above. It affects all living all living animals and may sometimes affect living plants and fungi as well. We'll have to define the conditions by which it does that. Okay, so we have the blight. Have I created an article template for vampires? I may have. Let's see if I did. Vampire. No, I have not yet. So let's do that. Vampire. Species. A vampire is a necromantically. So no, a vampire is a creature, an undead creature, created necromantically, created from other sentient species through necromancy. They are the only self-willed sentient creatures that can avoid the effects of the blight in the world above. That's to get back to work, Growl. I'm not going to write articles for elves and humans right now. We don't really need it, but the details of our vampires are important, so we can fill that in later. Because right now we're basically going with the standard elves and humans as laid out in the Pathfinder Player's Handbook, so we don't need anything fancy. But later we'll flesh them out more. I don't think he's done anything bad with this. Like, he asked me, he said, the introductory paragraphs, the entire vignette of the adventure plot needs to be reworked to provide a few sentence synopsis of the world condition. I've thrown some placeholder sentences for flavor, but not for canon. And then I was asked to rebuild it as well as create an article about the catastrophe that made the surface essentially uninhabitable. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with what you got here, Bob. Stretch says he's making an article on the world that are just notes to himself for homebrew ideas. Yep, that's, that's a good idea. And then we can reference it too and come up with ways to use them. There is nothing wrong with what you have written here, Bob. This is fine. In Azarin, which is the name of our city-state. You might like the pic that's in it, he says. A Games Workshop 1 article is staying private, so no copyright issues. Cool. I will have a look in a minute, yes. Oh, this is the bit that needs some... okay. No, that was right the first time. You know what? I'm going to move this whole paragraph. Do this. Actually, no. No. There, I think that's actually a good start, isn't it? Let's see here. So just with minor modifications to Bob's text. Oh, and by the way, there, Stretch, what do you think of my idea for an adventure title? The Enemy of Your Enemy. Cool. Rowan says, I have been thinking on Vonden's life after our Toy Soldiers campaign ends. I might have a book hiding in me after all. That's excellent. Like it. Okay. I use the dungeon door because I tend to use that for this is an adventure, right? So if you don't like it, let me know. Yeah, a Pathfinder 1E adventure for 5th level characters. The world is a harsh and unforgiving place. The surface is uninhabitable to mortal elves and humans. Many years ago, the spellburn drove them underground, since to remain on the surface meant suffering the mutagenic effects of the blight. Makes sense, he says. Cool. But once underground, the survivors found they could not grow enough food to sustain their populations. Crops could still be grown on the surface, but elves and humans could not plant, tend, or harvest them. To solve this problem, a ritual was devised that would offer protection from the mutagenic effects of the surface, but that ritual had a price. Those subject to it were indeed able to return to the surface without ill effect, and as an added benefit, they essentially ceased to age, becoming immortal. But they were also turned into creatures that could not benefit from the crops they would tend. Blood became their only source of sustenance. They were turned into vampires. There were many underground enclaves of surviving elves and humans around the world. Many of these... Oh, maybe I should not be reading this because Esong's still in the chat, but okay. Yes. Yes, I will not read it then. I will not read the rest of it. But there's the part of the prelude anyway. And now I should create articles about the Spellburn and the Blight. So, Emily really likes it? Cool. I really like it too. Depending on how it develops, I could even see writing stories in this world. Like, I've got ideas, man. I've got ideas. One-shot adventure. All right, cool. So do I, says Stretch. You'll have to share the article later. I will after the adventure has been played, I think. One shot, the enemy of your enemy. And we need a name for the world, too, guys. Really neat idea, says Kefka Jako. Thank you. Cool. I mean, like, you guys take credit for it too, of course, because this was created with the combination of the World Builders Roundtable interacting with the chat and our audience and what you guys voted for, right? So, like, it's your doing as much as it's ours. But we have 15 minutes left, it looks like, so I guess I had better get on to reading the last showcase. I feel good, though. I got a little bit done there. Stretch's homebrew ideas. I'm fully ready to take credit, says Amelie. Damn right you should. Of course, Amelie voted for something entirely different. Ooh, nice. Okay. Stretch says, how about long ago a barrier to the demonic realm was created and the world was kept safe for a long time before the cataclysm. It luckily survived the event, but now a certain cults of the mutants have discovered how to bring that barrier down. What do you think? Huh. But it does feel like science fiction with the post-apocalypse side. Yeah, I'm drawing on a lot of science fiction stuff and post-apocalyptic literature for what I'm doing with it. The string of the harp are the person's tendons. Yee. So, but yeah, so I'm satisfied, says Amelie. Me too, I get to stretch my sci-fi muscles too, which is fun. Okay, Stretch, let's talk about that idea off screen, because I've got a thought about that, but I don't want to reveal it on screen because I don't want to spoil the surprise. So, that would be a big spoiler. Yeah, I'm pretty much taking post-apoc and turning it into medieval time. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, excellent. Okay, cool. Yeah, I've got a thought about that, because we can go with that. And that actually gives an overall campaign goal for people who want to play. So that's fun. All right, so last showcase for the day, we're going to be looking at, I forget whose article this was because my brain is an idiot today. It's Emily's article on crystal casting armor. Nice. Yeah, where Whereth, her world, is post-apoc turned high fantasy. Exactly. Emily says, it's science fiction without the protagonist enjoying the benefits of advanced technology. Exactly. Oh, no, it's Kafka Jacobs. Okay. All right. I love this, by the way. I absolutely love this picture. This being the first thing we look at. Bam! Right? I'm like, okay, we got eyes. Oh, Amelie showcased it. That's why. Okay. So there's the link. That's spectacular, by the way. Freaking spectacular. Just gorgeous. So, let me do something here for just a moment, guys. While I've got it open, I think I'm going to clear out the old requests that I have in my queue. I try not to leave this open, the rewards queue, because it opens up as a separate Google window, and then if I end up like shutting things down, I accidentally sometimes miss my tabs, but this opens up, which is a fucking pain in the ass. So we're gonna clear it all out and shut it down. Siobhan, did you use that reroll last game? An e-song reminder, you have a reroll queued. You confused me. Like the OSL on it, yeah. Got the idea from playing with a bit of Hero Forge. I know when you play with that gem stuff and put it in like physical things, it looks pretty fucking spectacular. I think I've done all the sings. Yes. Okay. Showcase or critique, and I still need the names generator. All right, closing that down. Now, yeah, I love this. Just spectacular. Look at that. Wait for summer camp, you might be able to fit it in. Yeah, good idea. And on all the art, okay, first of all, let's scroll this. Let's just appreciate the layout and the art at our first glance here, because look at this. I just love this. All these different variations, how everything's all split up into little sub boxes and stuff. It's not one huge collection of text. Really spectacular. Varying the different variations of the armor throughout the article is pretty incredible. I don't know if we're going to make it all the way through this today, but I will do my best. Oh, I love the different designs. That's a clever way to fit that in. Yeah. All right. So let's go back to the top. Is it a bird? Is it a dragon? No, it's a flying wizard. Reaction of Covenant General during the storm battle. Nice. Yeah, Amelie says, yes, I really like all the color changes you have. It's a nice palette. Yes. Yes. I also like the lighting effects. Like, I don't even know how you did that in Hero Forge. You're going to have to share that with me. But, you know, clearly this is all lit up with fire, right? And this is all lit up with the blue glow of the icy stuff, right? So that's pretty bitchin'. Yeah, I just adore it. Just a second, I have to send a message while I've thought of it. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, it looks really good. Yes, so I used the booth for that, where you can add sun direction, but also give it a color. Ah, that's what you did. Okay. Nice trick, said DM Stretch. In miniature painting, that's called OSL, Object Source Lighting. Ah, a very hard technique that I dare not try, at least not yet, anyway. Cool. Kefka Jaco said, thanks. Mostly I discovered it because I was playing with it a bit. That's great. And he says, oh no, I'm not that good at miniature painting yet either. Yeah. Stretch is like, yeah, I can just about manage wet blending. All right. In the world of Nioeth, the crystal casting armors are among the strangest pieces of clothing one can find. At first sight, they look like a well-decorated mix of metal armor and cloth. But when they are worn by a magic user, their properties can change very noticeably. Appearance. As the armor can change form depending on the kind of user or his actions, the armor's appearance is typically classified into two forms. Regular look. And that's what the armor regularly looks like that you've pictured up here. Nice. Nice that you've thought about that. While not being worn by a magic user, or if the magic user while not being worn by a magic user, comma, or if the magic user chooses, right, the casting armor looks normal, although expensive. The most striking feature is perhaps the fact that part of the armor is made from elemental crystals. These are especially prevalent on the shoulder pads and in the various decorations in the metal breastplate, yeah? The lower part of the armor consists of metal greaves and robes. Often these robes are lined with a thin layer of crystal as well. Another important aspect of the armor is the elemental crystal, which is placed on the forehead of the caster. This allows the caster to use his or her mind to control the various properties of the armor. Types. Cloud crystal. Cloud crystal armor has a blue color and emits a light in the same color while used for casting. It is the most common type used in Illyrium. I would say Crowd crystal armor has a blue color, comma, and emits a blue light while used for casting. You could say light blue or gas flame blue if you wanted a descriptor, because I assume that's what we're looking at in this picture is the cloud crystal. For obvious reasons, these are clearly air elemental magic. Okay, sea crystal. Sea crystal armor is white in color and it emits the same color during casting. Yeah, that's fine the way it is there. This armor is pretty uncommon because sea crystal is the rarest of the elemental crystals, right? And you've clearly got that, like, perhaps here. Yeah. Ember crystal. Ember crystal armor is red in color and emits a red light during casting, is how I would put that. Since ember crystals are more common in Mervidel, the majority of the armors of this type can be found here. You might also say, and emits an eerie red light, right? Or a fiery red light. What the hell happened there? For some reason I clicked on the wrong thing. Okay. But, I mean, that's pretty fiery. That's pretty cool. Okay. Tremor crystal. Tremor crystal armor is yellow in color and emits a warm yellow light, I'd say, based on your lighting there during casting. Most of the tremor crystals are found deep underground, and the armors are therefore more commonly used by the inhabitants of the lower realms. Neat. Caster look. The regular look changes completely when worn by a magic user, singular because you said A, so no S. If the caster chooses to do so, comma, part of the crystals embedded in the armor will start emitting light, comma, depending on the type of elemental crystal used. In Illyrium, the most common crystals are cloud crystal, which give off a blue light. Okay, nope, delete that whole sentence from here. In Illyrium, right, and just go because you already said that, back up here in almost exactly the same way. So you do not need to repeat yourself. In addition to the light, the armor can have additional, that's repetitive. I keep overlooking stuff up. Yes, it's a common mistake in this sort of writing. And so it's something that I'm keenly aware of, is like over explaining or redundancy. Here's another one, right? In addition to the light, the armor can have additional properties based on the elemental crystal that is used. How about just delete in addition to the light and start the sentence with the armor can have additional properties based on the elemental crystal that is used. Some of these are merely cosmetic, such as the winds created around a caster using cloud crystal armor. Although this moves the robes during casting, which creates an intimidating effect, it has no practical use. Practical needs a C between the A and the T. However, each type of armor does have some additional practical uses. Let's see. Some of these are merely cosmetic, period. For example, the winds created around a caster using cloud crystal armor. And then you don't have to describe how it moves robes during casting. We would assume that plus hair, right? Or if you wanted, you could say, because again, practical use is kind of repeated there. So I would say, for example, the winds created around a caster using cloud crystal armor blows robes and hair, creating an intimidating effect. Oh no, that's too long. Let's see. Rework that a bit, basically. You're kind of repeating yourself there. Yes, the air moves as well. Yeah, I get that. It blows and looks cool. We've got the flapping robe look, which makes sense. Yeah, actually, there we go. Keep everything as it is, except delete this sentence, right? Although this moves the robes during casting, which creates an intimidating effect, it has no practical use. We don't need that, right? Not here, right? Some of these are merely cosmetic, such as the winds created around a caster using cloud crystal armor. We know that's, a side effect now, right? However, each type of armor does have some additional practical uses. And you can, if you want to add that stuff, you can add it in one of the armor descriptions, right? If you feel that it requires more explanation than it looks cool, right? Which we can visualize. Winds created around a caster using cloud crystal. Oh, okay, we got the blowing cloak effect. I knew that immediately. I didn't need the additional sentence there, right? But if you really feel that must be explained, I'd put it in one of the sections of description, probably here, right? Where you're doing different types of effects of the different types of armor, right? Or you could put it here where you're describing the cosmetic effects. That might be an appropriate place to describe winds blow around a person activating cloud crystal armor, which has an intimidating effect but serves no practical, which has an intimidating effect, period, right? Sea crystal, I don't know, does water drip from the armor, right? Ember crystal, is the character hot, stuff like that, right? Okay, and he thinks, yeah, that's a better place to put it. Okay, cool. Just my feedback there. Types. Cloud crystal armor is known for its use in air elemental magic. A strong caster's power is enhanced while using lightning magic. During the casting of a spell, the armor can launch lightning bolts at nearby enemies. In addition, an advanced caster can use the armor to fly. These are leveled items. This is RPG stuff, and these are leveled items. those can be really cool. Yeah, okay. Sea crystal. The sea crystal armor, use singular because you've singulared it everywhere else, so singular, not plural, uses the power of elemental water. While wearing this armor, casters are able to breathe. Breathe is, okay, the difference between breathe and breath is that breathe has an E at the end of the TH, right? It is a stupid exception to the English rule, right? It's like you need an E between a consonant and a vowel to make the long sound of the vowel that came before the consonant, right? Like, but in this case, the TH is treated as a singular letter, right? It's an old leftover from when it was a singular letter, right? Stretch says, just took my plate back to the kitchen. On the way, I remember I have a chocolate bar in the fridge. Put plate in wash bowl and come back to the computer without the chocolate. How did I forget that? Not enough sleep is the answer. Go back and collect your thoughts. Alright, cool. Water magic. Yes. Okay. Breathe underwater and their water magic is enhanced. Okay, see you later, Rowan. See you, game. During the casting of a spell, the armor can launch sharp ice shards towards enemies. Aha, that makes sense. Thank you for being one of the few wise people in the world who recognizes that ice is water magic. I approve. Also very cool. I wonder how I keep looking over that stuff while rereading. We'll change that definitely. No worries. Ember Crystal. The only reason why I'm mentioning it and like emphasizing it like that is because that is... Do you have any idea how often I see that mistake? Right? One out of every 3 articles I showcase has that fucking mistake, right? I figure that if I, like, you know, draw attention to it now while I'm thinking of it, people will consider that when they're writing their articles in the future. That's my hope. And then I won't have to correct their typo, right? So it's cool. And that's true. Your brain sees what should be there, not what is there. Is Rabbit on tonight? That is a good question. Rabbit was intending to stream between my 2 streams. He was even going to call it like something like the Sable intermission show or something. I hope so. I don't see him live yet. If and when he does go live, let me know. Okay. Armor made with Ember Crystal uses the power of elemental fire. Casters who wear it are resistant to fire and their fire magic is enhanced. During the casting of a spell, the armor can create fiery tendrils that attack nearby enemies. His Discord has disappeared? Uh-oh. Well, shit. I hope something hasn't happened. I love Rabbit. I think he's a great guy. I really enjoy his streams. That's the sprint. Huh. Okay. Casters who wear it are resistant to fire, and their fire magic is enhanced. During the casting of a spell, the armor can create fiery tendrils that attack nearby enemies. Awesome. Tremor Crystal. Armor made with Tremor Crystal uses... Got a D instead of an E, that's a common typo too. The power of elemental earth. Casters wearing this armor are able to climb any rocky surface, even upside down. Cool. During the casting of the spell, the armor allows the caster to create a tremor. I would say a tremor that knocks nearby enemies down, is how I would put that. Oh good, Siobhan found her art information. We are running out of time rapidly. It is 4 o'clock, and this is the day that I must be off relatively on time. How close are we to being... Oh, okay, this looks like more than it is. All right. I can do it, I think. Well... Okay. Yeah. I think I'm out of time, is what my problem is here. Okay, I love this article. What I'm going to do is I'm going to buy this back into the queue. I guess I have to enable that, don't I? Okay. That's what I'm going to do. It's late here as well. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put that back in the queue. And we'll continue it next time. Just tried Rabbit's Discord link on his Twitch about page, and link is broken. Oh dear. Do I still have an echo? Oh, Rabbit is auto-hosting me. Ah, okay. Thanks for the great feedback already. Well, you're welcome. I'm happy to help you there, Kefkajako, and you know, I love going over other people's articles for sure. It's a lot of fun. So, all right. I guess that's it for today, friends. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, I guess I should go to my end screen here, shouldn't I? I am disappointed to see that Rabbit is not up. I would prefer to raid Rabbit, but we are not going to be able to do that today. Maybe next time. Pulled his streams from the schedule? Uh-oh. Thanks for the stream and all the showcases. Yeah, you're welcome, Emily. I love doing it, so it's a lot of fun. Maybe something happened with his ASC membership process, or maybe he thinks something happened. I don't know. Have a nice end of the day and a great game. Thank you. You too. Have a great weekend, everyone, or a great rest of your week. We'll be back in a little less than 2 hours for Toy Soldiers Old School. That is our regular Pathfinder campaign. It starts at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. UTC, I think it is. Yeah. 1 a.m. UTC, which means 2 a.m. in the UK. I could do a last minute setup or just raid someone else. If you want to get up like right now, Stretch, I'll raid you. That's fine. I still gotta do my closing out stuff here too. Monday is our day off, so we will not be streaming on Monday. Tuesday, Aaron will be back with Ask an Old GM. As always, at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. UTC, so that's 10 p.m. in the UK. Yeah, and Wednesday I'll resume with some of these showcases. By then, hopefully, my Kickstarter will be available to look at. It is going live on the 15th of June. That is my plan, anyway. Oh, you'd have to set your green screen up again? Okay. All right. Thanks for joining me, as always, everyone. I don't know Madhouse. Who is Madhouse? You know what? I raided Travis recently, so tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go raid the Mercs of Mischief. That's what I'm going to do. I haven't been there in a while, and we've been working on... Oh, Madhouse is an ASC streamer? Alright, well, let's give him a try then, for sure. I don't know them at all. So, here we go. We're going to raid Madhouse. Thank you very much for joining me today, everyone. As always, I will see you in a couple of hours if you are coming to the game. And it's always been a pleasure. Bye. Don't forget to shout, prepare to be boarded, because we are the Sable's Privateers.